Paul, so you are now the chairman of the Hispanic Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, I understand. And so with the experiences that you've had in this role, but also in the Hispanic and veteran community, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen that these entrepreneurs have had as they've really strived to build their companies?
Well, there's really two. Access to capital, we covered that a few minutes ago, and really understanding where to go to find those opportunities. But the other is really mentorship. You know, even in my own case, I started at what I would call a mainstream organization, and rose through the ranks. Found great mentors there, but there were a lot of things that started providing signals to me that mentorship was going to be more challenging as I rose in different organizations. And I think it's important for us to make sure that we have the way that a GPS works, a triangulation on our mentorship. So it's great. A lot of entrepreneurs will say, oh, but Paul, I have a mentor. Great. Where are the other two? Because you should have three, and you need to triangulate. And so in my case, I have someone who kind of helps me with the work-life balance and the whole personal side of my life. I have someone else who helps me from the big business side, because that's who I serve. Those are my customers. And I have someone who's been there, done that with a small business that's taken it to a larger organization. Every 3 or 4 years, I switch them out.
That is a really good idea. I've actually never heard that before, to actually have 3 of them and then to switch them out every few years. And so are these people that you pay to mentor you, or are they people that are just close colleagues of yours? Have you put them on a board? I mean, how did you get these people, and how specifically do you work with them?
You know, I would be happy to pay, but it really just comes through the natural course of developing meaningful relationships. And I hope, and I think my mentors would say that they've gotten just as much out of their association with me as I have from them, although, you know, it's probably not the case. But I try to make sure I find ways to pay them back.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm glad that we talked about the mentorship idea, because I know all through my own career, having that mentor there, that I think the biggest value that I've always gotten is, you know, we're going to hit some really rough spots in the road. And I will never forget my mentor saying, it's really how fast do you learn from that, and how fast do you go around that pothole in the road as you move forward. So I'm sure you've gotten a lot of that.
Wonderful advice. And I think, you know, best advice I've gotten from my mentor was to stick to your passion. You know, focus and keep your eye on what it is that really is important. In my case, you know, that was a strategic point as to whether or not we were going to be selling a lot more product or doing a lot more services-oriented work. And I just love doing what I'm doing in terms of helping solve that problem. I mean, my exit is the funeral. Lima Consulting Group's here to stay. I'm not in it for an exit strategy. This is not a lifestyle business.
And one last question along the mentoring front. Do you have a piece of advice for entrepreneurs who are listening to this that say, okay, I love that idea, I've heard it before, but how do I actually get this mentor? How do I do that?
Well, let me share some advice I got from Andy Ratcliffe, one of the investors and founders of Benchmark Capital, who funded just about every startup elite in Silicon Valley. He said, go after industries that are really exploding, and then find an organization within that industry that's leading the pack. And it doesn't matter what that role is, get inside that organization. If you do that 2 or 3 times, you've been more than lucky. You've had excellent judgment. And I would say the same analogy would apply to finding a mentor. Find someone who's really been there and done it, and can walk the walk and has a long history. I can't tell you how many times that, you know, I love the book David Copperfield from Charles Dickens. The first line says that whether I shall be the hero of my own life or whether that station shall be held by someone else, these pages must follow. So you can't have a hero. You need to be your own hero, but you need to find folks who can really inspire you, because someday one of those guys may not wind up being the man that you thought they were, but you can aspire to that.
Oh, that is fantastic. And the one thing that I just want to call out that you said is really figure out what your value is back to them too, so you can really think about it as a win-win situation. So Paul, thank you so much. We appreciate that advice. Thank you.
My pleasure.